this evening. Your presence demonstrates your care and for our community and farmers market. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. So those of us on so we have a basket here if we can get a show of hands for anyone who wants to speak. We're going to have people draw numbers and then have people speak in that order. So raise your hand if you want to speak, both here and above, and we'll start passing that basket around. My name is Bruce McAllister, and I'm on the advisory committee, and I'm the chair of the committee for this year. I started selling at the market in 1992, and my children grew up at this market. We would get our stand set up, and then our children would spend the rest of the day with other vendors who became their friends and a strong connection to the community. While they are now grown and have moved away from Bloomington, when they are in town, they always make a point of returning to the market to renew those connections. I always felt that my children were safe at the market. So to hear that some people do not now feel safe is not acceptable to me. Those concerns must be heard, and we all need to address these concerns. We hope that this meeting is the first step in the process that will make the market more open, more inclusive, and more welcoming. So for this reason, those of us who are on the advisory committee want to hear your comments and won't take up time answering questions and that type of thing until after the meeting is over. The advisory committee is made up of vendors who sell at the market and customers of the market. While we don't directly make policy, we do review market rules and regulations, and our input is presented to the Parks and Recreation Board, who make the policy decisions. The advisory committee does not determine who can or cannot sell at the market, but our input is taken seriously by the board. You'll notice that public comment is near the top of the agenda, and our expectation is that most of the meeting will be hearing comments from the public. Our committee is all volunteers, and so we end our meetings at 7 o'clock, and we will officially adjourn the meeting at 7. However, if we need to stay longer, those who can stay in the committee will stay to hear all your comments, answer questions, engage in discussion for as long as it takes. I myself have signed up for the duration of this. I have a statement that we in the advisory committee have all agreed to that I'm going to read now. The role of the advisory committee is to help maintain the farmers market as a place where the community can gather to buy local produce and prepared foods. The market is both a vital economic resource to small family farmers and an important expression of community. It is a place where people can produce food and those who consume food can come together, build friendships, share stories, and support one another. The economic aspect and community building aspect of the market are both vital concerns. It is clear to the advisory committee that a portion of our community believes strongly that the vendor at the market has posted racist comments on the Europa website, that there is strong evidence to support their perception, and that they do not want this vendor selling at the market.
So if you lean against the walls back here where the light switches are, that's what you would thanks. So that's probably, we just gotta be careful maybe when you're leaning against the wall.
I'll start. The economic aspect and community building aspect of the market are both vital concerns. It is clear to the advisory committee that a portion of our community believes strongly that the vendor at the market has posted racist comments on the Identity Europa website, that there is strong evidence to support their perception, and that they do not want this vendor selling at the market. In order for the market to continue to be vibrant and strong, people must feel safe and welcome at the market, and vendors must be able to sell their goods in quantities that make their efforts worthwhile. The advisory committee recognizes that any person has the right to voice opinions and that people have the right to oppose views that are harmful, offensive, or that express that some in our community are less than others. We support these actions to the extent that they do not harm the market or vendors who are not the target of the actions. Our hope is that we can work with the community to make the market a more fully inclusive place for people to gather, and that it continues to provide strong economic support for the small family farms or food vendors that come to the market. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that this meeting is going to be recorded by CATS and will be available for broadcast. So for those who may have come in late, we were passing around a basket to take numbers. If anyone did not get a chance to take a number and want to speak, please let us know that now so that we can make sure you have an opportunity to speak. Since there are a lot of people who want to comment, we're going to ask that people try to keep their comments to 2 minutes or less. And if you hear a comment that states the points you're going to make, you may not feel the need to repeat that comment. Okay. So next we have Mayor Hamilton here who wanted to read his statement about this issue.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you letting me come briefly to your meeting. Thank you for the volunteers who run the Market Advisory Committee too. I just want to make a statement. I'm sorry I can't stay, but I did not want to miss this meeting, and then I appreciate all of you being here, and I will be watching this on CATS too later. I put this statement out, which is, I'm just going to share it with you in person. Recent allegations about a vendor at our city's farmers market having white supremacist affiliations have alarmed and activated our community, including me, personally, and as mayor. I join the vast majority of Bloomingtonians in abhorring and unequivocally condemning the odious doctrine of white supremacy. We know how important speaking out against hate is these days, with events and statements in our country and around the world seeming to open the door for hateful ideologies. We know, too, that today's progressive Bloomington has grown through our 200-year history in a soil laced with the toxin of racism. Like our state and country, our community was long home to both overt and covert white supremacy in our laws, our culture, our mores. Generations have struggled together to make progress in Bloomington, to eliminate many legacies that persist. We know much remains to be done and that we must redouble our efforts to stand together and affirm our belief in inclusion and welcoming an opportunity for all. That's why it's so important to respond together and directly to racism whenever and wherever it appears. We report hate and bias incidents annually compiled and published by our city's Human Rights Commission. Our community teams with individuals and organizations that work every day to weave the big, wide welcome mat that we want to be as real and inclusive as it should be. One place where that welcome mat is vital is at the Bloomington Community Farmers Market, where for decades of Saturday mornings, residents and visitors have gathered for fellowship and community building along with fruits and vegetables. The city has run the market through those years, explicitly committed to offering a space, quote, where all can feel welcome and safe regardless of race, religion, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, veteran status, housing status, or disability status, close quote, as is stated in the vendor handbook. The city will not tolerate any vendor displays or behaviors at the market inconsistent with that fundamentally welcoming environment. We will vigorously protect against any behaviors that threaten those values. On the other hand, we must also comply with the United States Constitution's First Amendment, which prohibits governments from restricting individuals' rights to believe and speak as they choose within very wide ranges, including those who sell at or attend a city-run farmers market. Repeatedly and consistently throughout the last century, the U.S. Supreme Court has said that government may not silence or punish people for disfavored beliefs in cases involving viewpoints including communists, anarchists, civil rights protesters in some places, and Nazis. Our constitutional government's prescription for odious speech isn't government control or censorship. It's more speech. That is, our community, including this mayor, can make clear our values, even when our government cannot directly intervene. That is why it's vital that individual Bloomingtonians and groups are stepping up and making their presence known at the market, to stand against hate and bigotry, period. To welcome and embrace people without regard to all those characteristics used throughout history and still today to try and divide us one from another. To spend our money thoughtfully, knowing who we are buying from and how our purchases affect the wider world. That's why, as mayor, I want to make clear my loud condemnation of racism and bigotry, and my commitment to do all we can to keep working together to pull them out, racism and bigotry, from root and branch, from our common soil. They and their descendants, privilege and implicit bias, continue to fester, demanding our vigilance and energies every day. I want to thank you for letting me speak. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for caring for our community as you do. And Bruce, I'll turn it back to you for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
I'm going to quickly introduce the members of the advisory committee, and then we will have public comments. So those who have numbers, let's say 1 through 5, if you want to start making your way to the front to speak at the microphone, we will start public comments. So we have here with us Kathy Aiken, Becky Vedas, Suzanne Mann, Portland Harrington, Carmen Searing, Leslie Summer, Rodney Kapowski, and Rachel Rosalina, and then also Marcia Goldman and Sarah Mullen from the market staff. Okay. All right, so yeah, once again, and Portland has agreed to let you know if you hit the 2-minute mark, and we just ask that you respect that so as many people can speak as much as possible. So, who has the first numbers to speak? Come on up.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes. So my name is Abby Ang, and I am the Indiana University PhD student who initially started the letter/petition about Schooner Creek Farm. This matter first came to my attention a few weeks ago. Shortly after Nolan Brewer vandalized the synagogue at Carmel, Visitor and friends recognized the names of a couple and owner of Schooner Creek Farm in the FBI report. Since then, through chat leaks, corroboration from colleagues and concerned citizens, and more, it's become clear that the owners of Schooner Creek Farm are members of Identity Europa. I would like to reiterate that Identity Europa has had a history of discrimination against large swaths of the population. There are a few people speaking tonight who are familiar with the threats they pose and who can speak to their recruitment strategies and their hatred, not to mention the incitement to violence that they pose. For example, through rallies such as the Unite the Right rally at Charlottesville. In February 2017, members of their organization put up posters specifically on the office doors of faculty members of color in the African American and African Diaspora Studies program, the School of Law, and the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies. and at the time, Provost Robel condemned the incident. The presence of white supremacists at the market creates a hostile and unsafe atmosphere for people of color, queer people, people with disabilities, and the Jewish community. I am frankly concerned that they have a presence at the market. And as a person of color and as an advocate for diversity and inclusiveness in all public venues, such as the Bloomington Community Farmers Market, and as someone who supports the inclusiveness of the market, I hope that the Farmers Market Advisory Council can make it clear that hate and intolerance has no place in our town. People of color are disproportionately at risk for experiencing poor nutrition and health outcomes as a result of food insecurity, and any program that supports white supremacist activities does so to the detriment of those who the SNAP, all these acronyms, WIC, MNPP, etc., purportedly serve. And so with that said, I have a list of questions or calls to action. So first of all, I would like clarification about the role of the Farmers Market Advisory Council. What can the group do in vetting vendors and making recommendations to the city about ordinances that may need to be passed to increase access to the market for marginalized groups? Second of all, how do we plan to raise positive alternatives? For example, a fund created from a portion of market fees to help people of color who are also farmers, considering the barriers of access that may exist. What are our options or funds or programs that can help undocumented farmers? And finally, from my conversations with others in the community, we know that people of color are disproportionately at risk for experiencing food security and are also underrepresented in the small farms and local food movement. So what steps can the Farmers Market Advisory Council take to build a more equitable and sustainable community? What can we do to establish stronger relationships with marginalized groups? And how can we reflect the diversity that Bloomington supposedly embraces? Thank you.
Can you make sure that you sign in? Because there's a sign up sheet.
Could you come back and sign? There's a roster on the please. Thank you.
Okay, my name is David Stewart. I live here in Bloomington, have for many years, for like 28 years. I've gone to the farmer's market many years. I see some vendors of the farmer's market here. I work for Indiana University, and I wish I wasn't the second speaker. But given that I am the second speaker, I will state what I came to say. And that is that I found out about this because Jeremy Hogan told me about it at the farmer's market. Then I read about it through his excellent website, the Bloomingtonian. And I'm sorry to say that this feels like a witch hunt. This feels like a lynch mob. This feels like guilt by association. And this feels like outing, doxing, shaming, and bullying. I have been to the farmer's market many times. I've seen Schooner Valley. Never have I seen any sort of hate speech from anybody at the farmer's market. And for someone's privacy on the web to be outed or to be doxed, which is a term that we're seeing recently, for people, our neighbors, to be called Nazis.
What if they are now?
They're not calling themselves Nazis. They call themselves Nazis.
Again, this sounds like a lynch mob.
Don't use that word.
This calls like a lynch mob. You can't call people Nazis and still have a conversation with them. You can't label people Nazis and still live in close proximity with them. What this is a distraction. We are all realizing what's happening with our society, and just like a plantation, The plantation owners are setting
Are we
us.
bringing up plantations? We're bringing up plantations now? That's what we're doing? In the city of Bloomington?
We're talking
Dave,
about.
we're bringing up plantations
We're
now?
talking about a plantation where the overseer is pitting us against each other.
2 minutes.
Who here is the
And the fact that I'm being shouted down shows that discourse is not allowed. And that people have come with a prior judgment, and that sounds like a lynch mob to me.
I'm shaking, Dave. Me too.
Hello, I guess. My name is Brandy Williams. I'm the owner of Kindly Inspired Eats. And though reluctant to step forward, I haven't worn this kind of hat in a long while. As I tell my children, with privilege comes responsibility. So I must live that if I'm going to speak it. So I came today because I guess I would call for a broader conversation about this. There's so much more to be discussed. I also feel comfortable coming forward and speaking because I've had experience directly with both of the farmers involved. I've known them as personal acquaintances. I've had direct conversations with both of these individuals about these heinous accusations. I have called them out on it. I've had deep discussion. My previous, though I'm a baker now, my previous background was a master's degree at Purdue University, and I taught EDCI 285, which is multiculturalism in education, and we focused on issues of identity, race, class, gender, sexual orientation, and of course, white supremacist ideology. Both of these individuals have spoken to me about this ideology. I have had my direct response to both of these individuals was that this is harmful. Yes, it's wrapped in a new package. However, it's the same hateful meaning. What neither of these individuals knew at the time, but I made them aware, is that, as I mentioned, with privilege comes responsibility. I am biracial. I'm light-skinned, so they were unaware of this with their comfort in speaking to me. And when I questioned it coming from that perspective, of course, there's backtracking, there's, denial in it. Anyway, so my 2 inches up, but I guess what I wanted to do is I just felt responsible as a community member to come out and say I have had direct experience with this. I do have academic background with it. I will say I'm one of the individuals that used to love to have my children come to the farmer's market and be a part of that community. Those children have not come to this market for over a year because of this exact situation. I had to have this tough conversation about individuals that were a part of their life, that they knew their children. This is tough stuff. It calls for a broader conversation. We cannot
Numbers 5 through 8 also come up and be ready to speak.
I'm number 5 already. Before, I'm sorry.
My name is Janice Lilly. I grew up in Alabama during the 1950s and 60s with parents who were committed to the civil rights movement. I've been a part of a nonviolent study group in Bloomington for the past 20 years. From these experiences, I have come to believe nonviolence is not an easy path. When issues come up, I turn to those who dedicated their lives to its practice. One of these is Martin Luther King Jr. In 1958, early in his career, he wrote, "A basic fact that characterizes nonviolence is that it does not seek to defeat or humiliate the opponent, but to win his friendship and understanding." A characteristic of this method is that the attack is directed against the forces of evil rather than against persons who happen to be doing the evil. It is the evil that the nonviolent resistor seeks to defeat, not the persons victimized by evil. I cannot disagree, that was an quote. I cannot disagree any more strongly with the worldview, politics, and values of Identity Europa. I oppose any actions to assert these values, and I speak against them. However, I interpret Dr. King's writings to call me to truth, even those with whom I disagree sharply, with respect, to find the parts of them I can accept. We are all complicated, and to reach out to them while making clear that I disagree with what they stand for. So I will not be part of trying to have someone removed from this community or working to take away someone's livelihood because I disagree with his or her values. Much is happening.
Are you here speaking?
Much that is happening in this country right now raises grave concerns. Many people feel left out. Again, I turn to Dr. King. On March 31st, 1968, he preached his final Sunday sermon in the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. I was in the congregation. He preached, "Through our scientific and technological genius, we have made of this world a neighborhood, and yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make of it a brotherhood. But somehow, and in some way, we have got to do this. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. We are tied together in a single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality."
Martin Luther King was killed by white supremacists.
Amen. My name is Jada B, and I'm a member of this community. I was born and raised in Bloomington, Indiana. I've been going to the farmers market since its inception. Having said that, Martin Luther King was killed by racists. So any conversation that you bring Martin into this, you have to talk about the violence that was perpetrated against him. We have to talk about the violence that is inherent in these white supremacy organizations. They are not just saying, I have a difference of opinion. They're saying, you, sister, must die. You, queer person, must die. We want you out of this country. That's what they are saying. That is a difference. That is a big difference. You and I can say, I like tomatoes and I like tomatoes. And that's a difference of opinion. What they are calling for, and the organization these farmers are a part of, is asking for the extermination of races, of sexualities, of gender non-conforming people, and we need to root it out from this community.
Yes.
The mayor came up here tonight and said that we need to root this out from our community. This is how we root it out. We say no platform for racists, no platform for white supremacists. And yes, that might mean they lose their livelihood, and I'm sorry for them, but maybe try not being a racist.
Yeah.
The organization that they belong to didn't show the respect that you're asking me to show them. Didn't show the respect to the synagogues that they desecrated. Didn't show the respect to black people and brown people and queer people when they're talking their mess on the internet. And I'm gonna reclaim my time because Mr. Plantation reclaimed his time, so I'm gonna reclaim mine. Okay? Who's the overseer here? The city government. The city government is the overseer. And we need to tell the overseer we're not taking it anymore.
Yeah.
Solve this today by one proclamation. He likes to do that with other things, so why not this situation? If he's really a fan of getting rid of white supremacy and hate in this town, we can do that today. We can do that today. We can remove it from our farmers market at the very least. Okay, and I want to ask my brown folk who are here, my black folk who are here, how many of you go to the farmers market on a regular basis? Woo! Okay. You heard that deafening silence. Why? Why don't we do that? Why aren't we here? Because we know this isn't a space for us. And so we are asking you to do things like do a longitudinal study about why people of color are not coming to your farmers market. I know y'all like hard data, so why don't you do that? Do a longitudinal study about why people of color are not coming to the city of Bloomington's farmers market. Could it be because they don't feel welcome?
Yes.
And if they don't feel welcome, what is the cause?
You're welcome there.
Yeah, I come all the time. I was there just this Saturday because I go where I want to go.
Freedom.
But the problem is do I feel safe?
Well, I feel safe here.
No, but that's your problem. If I go somewhere and I don't feel safe, then you don't feel safe.
The people that make me not feel safe are the people that utilize violence.
Shut the fuck up!
He's telling you that I'm reclaiming my time. You want to speak? You got a number.
Sorry, I told you you're welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate your white welcome.
Yeah, who's the racist?
You walk here. I will. I'm going to be done in 1 second.
Sit and listen.
Sit and listen, buddy. Or you want to talk outside?
Taking
Talk
over a
outside.
person of color on an issue about
My time is up. And your time is up.
You can have my time.
And your racist time is up. And your time is up. In this community, we're not taking it anymore. We are not taking it anymore. And the more you shout your nonsense, we got louder voices. I'm classically trained.
Racist is not nonsense.
So we can do this all night. Okay? The next person's going to come up and you keep talking your mess and we'll keep talking our mess. And then we'll shut the whole meeting down.
I'm going to ask that only people who are at the podium speak, so this doesn't degenerate into a shouting match, because we want to hear people's voices, but when you're at the podium, not back and forth with people who are speaking.
Hi, I'm Juliana, and I'm not used to doing this, so I apologize in advance for my nervousness. But I will say that as an immigrant, and as a mother, and an educator, and also as a brown woman, I feel very unsafe at farmers market right now. And I feel like that needs to be heard. People of color feel unsafe. And why that doesn't matter to some of you confuses me. It should matter. If you're white, you don't know. You just don't know. If you're a person of color and you walk by that booth, you feel fear. Okay? And that needs to really sink in. All right? And I know these people. I thought they were okay. I actually had a play date with Sarah a long time ago. And so this really hurts. This really shocks me. All right? I have a few things more to say. When I moved here in 2007, the farmers market was one place where I actually felt the vibrancy of this town, the soul of this town. It helped me feel at home here, right? And I created that for myself. So year after year, I return with the anticipation for entertainment and food and community. Community is what really stands out to me. But what is community if we don't feel safe? We all need to feel safe for this to feel like right community, right? I see a lot of you nodding. You know I'm right. If some of us don't feel safe, there's a problem that needs to be addressed. And just being silent about it isn't enough. So I will say this, I don't think that we can allow the vendors to continue there. That is my feeling. We need to find a way to get them out so that we feel safe. Now, whether all those years that I went, maybe my feeling of safety was an illusion, but this is what I'm asking for. I want for that feeling of safety to be real, to be an actuality, okay? So maybe it was an illusion, but this gives us the opportunity to make this real. It needs to be real. We need to grow as a community. This is how we do it. We do something. That's it.
Hi. Hi, y'all. My name's Amy, countryman, and I've lived in Bloomington for a long time. I was initially a vendor at the farmer's market, and then I started having children. Then I stopped vending. This whole thing, it's so complicated and it makes me sick. And I know for a lot of people, it's their daily lived experience. And for a lot of us in this room, it's this shocking thing of, oh my God, there's white supremacy here, but there's been white supremacy here. Right? So, to me, it's not, I'm a white person. I have 4 kids, 2 of them are African American. I have always felt safe at the market, and last weekend, for the first time, when I brought my daughter, my African American daughter, to the market, I did not feel safe with her. I felt scared. And that place is home to me. I love the farmer's market. This is a complicated issue, and I think the way we deal with it as a community is really important. I think we need to do a few things. I think we need to come together as a community and have respectful conversations about how we deal with this. I think the city needs to take the lead in that and holding a community forum where we can talk about what's happening. We can actually create solutions to what's happening, because what's happening isn't right, but also the divisiveness and the disrespect is also not right. Because this is about taking care of our special place. Not just the market, but our whole community. It's not just about Sarah and Doug. You know, Sarah and Doug they're like the symptoms of a bigger problem, and they're the thing that are bringing us together as an opportunity to figure out how do we address this on a deeper level. So I don't have these answers. I want the city to take the lead. I want the Farmers Market Advisory Council to take the lead in saying, we're going to host a community forum. We're going to find a really strong, powerful, respectful moderator who can keep everybody on track, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to create a task force that's going to look at what are things we can do. What did you say? Someone not white. Yes, get leadership from the people who are most affected by this, because it's not the white people. Like Juliana was saying, it's important for people to feel safe. And safety is probably an illusion, but getting rid of Sarah and Doug, in my opinion, is just going to make the problem worse, because it's just going to make it fester. I'll say one more thing. This is not going to be popular, okay, but I've been doing a lot of reading and researching, and I reached out to a group called Life After Hate, which is made up of people who used to be in white supremacist organizations who have been reformed. And after talking with them, the thing that I'm getting from them is that the way that people come out of this lifestyle is through relationship. And so while I personally feel sick by the idea of trying to connect with people who feel that way. I feel like for those of us who can do it, I don't know how else we do it. I don't know how else we heal unless we do it with each other. So, I don't know. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate how much we all care, and thanks.
If we could have numbers 9 through 12 come up and be ready to speak. Marcia has additional numbers made by King.
Okay, I have, here are my thoughts. The first thing that I want to say is that we are being distracted right now from not looking at where the root of the evil is. We're not looking at the government, the two policies that are corrupted, and the corrupted mass media that's spewing hate.
Stand behind it. Stand behind it, not beside it.
You killed my creation.
Can you hear me?
That's about the right distance from the mic.
Okay, Kayla, let me start all over. I want to say that if we are going to point fingers, which are what we're doing right now, that is pointing fingers to where is the real evil of the whole situation. Our government, the United States of America, has been the reason behind all this. The mass media, the corporate media, and the spewing of racism, hate speech, which we get. That's the root of it. And they're pitting us against each other so that we can hate each other and be distracted by what the policy of the government and the military regime is doing. We do not see that the war machinery is attacking other countries. We do not see that because we're so busy fighting against each other when we should be fighting against the government who is doing this to all of us. Before we say, let's root everything out, you know, it reminds me of the time of the French Revolution. How do we do that? And once we start, where do we draw the line? Do you want us to have our freedom of speech be taken? Or do you want to have a freedom of lifestyle be curtailed? Or policed? What are we talking about here? Please come to reason. I don't think myself as colored or white. I feel like a person, a human being. And I have not felt any kind of discrimination from the vendors, nor people who go to the farmer's market. There must be a reason why if you know, the daily interaction might be different by other people. Like to say you should root out somebody because of their belief system, that's kind of, like I said, that's stop policing. We can't do that. And that's wrong. This is going back to the time of, I hate to say it, 1938. So that would have to say the word that we're going to say the word Nazism. Everybody's going to boo at me. Everybody, take the time, stay focused, cannot look at each other and say, you are wrong. Point the fingers up to the war machinery who is urging and doing all this killing, terrorizing, hate speech, racism, displacing millions of people, and causing us here, instead of having money to help, to help welfare, infrastructure, we are not getting that. We don't even have decent wages, and we can't afford to buy homes. Our education is skyrocketing. All this we have to look at. So point your fingers where it should be pointed, and we should all come together to point our fingers over there, to that direction, and fight against that. And who is it? It's not you or me, or single groups. It is against our government who is spouting off and not spewing off hate speech so they can go over to another country and take away their wealth. And we are not saying anything about it, but we can say our next door neighbor is evil. Thank you.
And just a real quick reminder, try and keep comments to 2 minutes and corporate of our people know when too much reach so that we have time for everybody to speak.
Hi, Laura McAllister. Pissed. Like all the white, rich, straight people to inhale their privilege and exhale their guilt. So you can listen to me. I'm the 1% of black farmers, female farmers in Indiana. I'm asking for an opportunity to do what my husband and I have been trying to do, farm in Indiana. And what you're telling me is that I need to step aside, that I need to sit in the back of the bus, that I need to wait. I'm tired of waiting. I want all the vendors to do two things for me. I'm requesting something, and I'm asking a question. I'm asking you, what has to be done for you to protect me? Must they string me up? I'm asking you vendors who have the privilege to vend 99% of the profit, the land, and the money in this state to do one thing for me. Tell Jasper, my son, why the adults aren't doing things to protect his mother. I got to work.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Robinson. My husband's been vending at the market since 1975. I've been going to this market for 28 years. I think it's worth taking a look at the Market Bucks report, the annual report for 2018, to see the kind of work that the market has been doing for the last 7 years on extending food to people who are lower income. I was just reading that today, and I think it was very useful. I think there are copies around here. I want to say that I think that there's more here that unites us than divides us. That there's a lot of care here for the character of the community, safe public spaces, welcoming spaces, equitable spaces, spaces that promote health and diversity. I don't think it's hard to reject Nazis. I reject them myself. I reject their presence at the market. I think it's harder to find solutions that combat the systemic racism that we just heard about, that is ongoing and that is extremely entrenched. I think it's hard to meet our highest ethical ideals and to minimize collateral damage. It's not actually up to the farmers at the market who's vending next to them. That is part of how you want to read it. That's the systemic racism, that is the process, that is the market as a whole. But the market itself, for 6 days a week, is a parking lot. It's a parking lot owned by the city. And it's only on that 7th day, on that Saturday, that the individual family farmers come based on a process in this room that anybody here could join. Based on that, people come and create the market. The vendors come, the farmers come with the work of their hands, and they create the market in partnership with the diversity of customers that come. And according to this market report, 250,000 visits by customers happen every year, or at least last year, 250,000. There ought to be a good representation of the diversity of this area at the market among those 250,000 visits. There is very wide diversity, ideological, ethnic, religious diversity among the vendors, just as there are among the customers. So it's this partnership really of the two that is what creates the market. And I don't think we should confuse the kind of parking lot full of people with the individual stands that are there. That is a distraction, I agree. Pitting ourselves against each other really is a distraction. This ought to be a jumping off point. I support the boycott. I think boycotting is a great tradition, it's powerful, and certain folks wouldn't be missed. Use that vote. But I do support the market. I think that there's a lot, the magic of the market is that people are accountable, that you can choose not to buy from them. You can choose to scrutinize their politics. You can have conversations with them. That doesn't happen at the grocery store. The corporate logos hide a lot of injustice.
They're taking up space that could go to
Animal torture, a lot of injustice here and far, far away. So yes, boycott, and yes, support the market, and yes, hold corporate America also accountable. Thanks.
All right. My name is John Williams, and I'm not here to defend white supremacists. I'm not here to defend Nazis. I think I'm here. Great point. I'm here to actually call out Antifa.
Where are they? Wait, why are we wasting our time?
Why are you wasting your time with this? We're here to
That's not what we're here for.
farmers.
That's not what we're here for.
Does Antifa have a market stall?
The man in the shirt that says something about, what is it, sir, that you yelled at me earlier?
We're here to talk
I
to
yelled,
the
fuck
farmers.
off.
Yeah, what's your shirt say?
Isn't this
Shut the fuck up.
He
You didn't work
something about me
here?
at
You
the
want
market
to do
because
it
I wasn't
again?
telling
Shut
what
the
I
fuck
needed
up.
to say. So he came at me
Yes.
with the exact same
Exactly what I
language.
said.
Getting in my face. All I said to him was leave me alone, but he made assumptions. And that's what all this is. Well, I'm learning more, actually. I don't know where she went.
The FBI are investigating them. That's not an assumption.
How racist these people actually are, and making sure that Antifa, who's trying to shut me up, are people that are actually
Where's Antifa? We are citizens.
You are
of this
Antifa.
town. We are citizens.
And I don't
of this town.
know. 20 years Antifa. Yeah, yes,
not
we're
an
not.
anti-fascist?
Antifa Bloomington, what is it called? B-Town Antifa. They have a picture on their Facebook page of a woman holding an assault rifle, kissing an assault rifle, lighting a bomb. Some of you are listening.
What does this have to do with the market?
It has to do with why you people are deciding to pursue
Who are you
mob
people?
justice.
Who are you people?
Antifa.
This is
Where is Antifa at the
This is
market?
literally how you're supposed
I
to
think-
do it.
What does this have to do with anything?
That the demonization that they're doing is not going to stop. If you feed
Demonizing
them-
Nazis
if you
is
feed
fine,
them,
dude.
they're going to
It's
continue.
not.
That's like a thing we
If they
do.
don't win, this is a warning.
No,
And here's one thing that really gets you laughing. I was recently baptized. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that the name of Jesus Christ actually stirs the demonic in your spirit and upsets you. Yeah, sure he was. Read the Bible. And there's one person that faces violence when they leave this room. I'll let you figure out who that is.
parliamentarians.
Numbers 12 through 15 or 16 come up and be ready to speak.
I'm not going to give my name, and I suggest anybody speaking out against a Nazi and a white supremacist not give their name. Because they do want you to be intimidated. Okay, that is how they work. I'm going to give you an example. People have been threatened since this has been going on. I am one of them. They have my picture. So I want you to take a good, excuse my language, fucking hard look at this guy. Because if I die, you're going to know why.
Amen, sister.
Get their ass.
Now, that said, I still have probably a minute and 30 seconds. I'm privileged, I'm white, but I'm a duck. I get to choose where I spend my money because I have money. People that are poor don't get to. Okay? Not saying I'm rich, but I can afford to go to the farmer's market. Having said that, where I spend my money is important to me. Those values, where I spend my money, I want those to reflect my values of love and care. I don't want to spend my money with somebody who wants to kill my family or kill anyone. So, having said that, we cannot allow this in our community. We cannot. My nieces, my nephews, my sister, my brothers cannot go to this market and feel safe. I don't even feel safe. I don't want my wife to go. I don't want anybody to go to this market that is a minority because they are not safe. My photo was taken in an attempt to intimidate. When I first got here today, the first thing I said to someone on this advisory council was what, Marcia? I said, please make sure nobody here takes photographs of anybody here before I knew BCATS was going to be here. Why? Because we are not safe in a country that allows this kind of hatred in our community. That's all I have.
My name is Brett Volp. My family does not feel safe at this market now. It hasn't for a year since the allegations began. It's not been 2 years. These are beyond allegations now. And anybody that doesn't believe that, I don't know what to say. This is the advisory board. You're all white. Do something about it. Do something about it. The other thing is there's not a lot of space out here for vendors already. Open a bigger market. It is also the vendors and the advisory board to do something about this, not the government. To actually do something about it. Say, I will not bend with this kind of intimidation and fear. I won't do it. There. Don't show up. Boycott them. I'm sorry. You know, what they've done and said has led to a hate crime. And it almost was a lot worse than graffiti, from what I understand. And they have tried to recruit people. There's lots of stories about this. This is really fucking serious. To you. To you it is.
Speak it out.
Do the research. It's a Google research. Do it in a minute. I'm not up here to tell you exactly what happened, or condemn them, really. They need to change their ways and their thoughts today. I don't know what else to say.
My name is Sherry Mitchell. I came here today as your neighbor. I live in Brown County, Indiana. We have much in common. Our state, our weather, both our communities have a farmer's market, and we are both dealing with bigotry. This conversation shouldn't be about whether we agree with white supremacy, but a more fundamental question: do we agree with bigotry? And the answer should be no. A bigot is a noun defined as a person who is hateful or intolerant of the opinions of those outside their own group. A person who believes that their own opinion is the only one of significance and all other opinions are inferior can be described as a bigot. This hatred can refer to thoughts on race, religion, politics, and sexuality. The word is often used to describe anyone with hateful opinions. A person may also be described as intolerant or closed-minded. The opposite of bigot is liberal. Bigotry is immoral because we are Bigotry is immoral because we are only judging people on the surface. When we judge people by the surface, we are bound to get it wrong, and an injustice will be committed. Bigotry forces individuals into categories. It is much easier to hate a categorical projection than it is a person. And when we think in those terms, an individual gets lost, thereby exaggerating the risk for injustice. Every individual should be treated as an individual and not on some shared trait. In the words of Doug Stevenson, CEO of Storytelling, turn it around, find common ground. My hate is not going to change anyone's hate. Let us work on empathy, not intolerance. Let us work on compassion, not on confrontation. Let us work on love, not hate. Love for ourselves when we are misguided, and love for those we are intolerant of. Let's learn to live, turn it around, and find common ground. The market is your common ground. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I just said, peace be with you, and some people responded. I am, for 41 years, I've been a universal Sufi, which is a far-off branch of Islam. I follow 2 of the 5 pillars. Some people consider me a Muslim, some people don't. Mike? And I'm representing my Muslim brothers and sisters. Mike? I'm representing my Muslim brothers and sisters that maybe are here a little bit. My daughter told me a year ago that, hey Mom, Sarah Dye doesn't like Muslims. I've known Sarah for over a dozen years. So I'm also a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church, which is a very social activist church. I am now at the market because I'm a very strong member of the Center for Sustainable Living and with Bring Your Bag Bloomington, and Marshall had this great idea to have a bag share, so I'm giving out bags. My mother told me, be careful as a landlord when you knock on someone's door, they might shoot you, and I was always brave. Spent time in Harlem, got lost in East St. Louis. I'm not afraid. And I woke up this morning thinking about this and thinking about some of the Muslim sisters who are wearing scarves at the market. And all of a sudden I thought, I'm outing myself. My name is Surah Gail Tala. Surah is on the top of every page of the Quran. I've had this name for 30 years. It means song of the spirit, whatever that might be. And I just want to make people aware that this group does not like Muslims also. And that the head of the organization that they're a member of has said that he took pleasure in getting rid of people of color, I didn't quite say it that way, firing them, and his great happiness was to be overseas killing Muslims. And so I want to make sure that everyone is aware that Islam is involved in this too. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what to say to you all. Our president has found an awful lot of loopholes. I'm hoping there's some kind of loophole can be found here. I honestly have never been afraid, and this morning I woke up thinking, maybe I am afraid to go to market. I'm right there in the front with a big sign bag share. I have a little puppet that says, use your plastic bags. And now I'm thinking, can I really do this? Good luck.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Staley, Muhammad Wilson Staley. I'm a long-time Bloomington resident since 1993. I'm an immigrant, born in Mogadishu, Somalia, adopted and raised here in Bloomington. I've been following this issue closely, and I feel I had to speak up. And if you guys know Somalia, let me just give you a picture of growing up. I've seen people get shot point blank. I've seen people come into my home with guns. I've been through it. I've lost my leg, I've lost my parents, that's why I'm here today. That brings up the point of Bloomington. Since I've been in Bloomington, I've never felt any safer. Wherever I went, whatever school I went to, elementary, middle, high school, IU, University of Southern Indiana, I've always felt safe. Sometimes, we the people have a tendency to let our emotions get ahead of ourselves. Sometimes, it's hard to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. No matter how uncomfortable certain ideas, groups, or people may seem to us or make us feel, we have to look at the bigger picture. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best. He said, an individual who has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity, we have not lived. So we have to rise above that. We as a people have to do much better. This whole issue worries me not for myself as an individual, but the outlook of us as a group, as a society. We simply have to do better. We must have higher standards and expectations for ourselves. We cannot simply just say, we disagree with you, you have to go. We simply cannot do that. We have to rise above that. Some have told me that we can draw a distinct line. However, people change, government change, attitudes change. That means that line will change. So no matter how abhorrent some people's beliefs may be, they have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If you don't feel welcome at the farmer's market, I feel welcome there. I don't buy at every single station. I don't. I get a few things, and then I leave. But seriously, ask yourselves, what are we doing here today? Where will this lead? What will the outcome be? Do we want division? Or do we want to be the people of inclusivity, people of diversity, not just, diversity includes thought too. Because if we didn't have that diversity of thought, and if we haven't fought for it, I surely wouldn't be here today, because I would not have gotten adopted. I came from a country that doesn't have any laws. I came from a country where people get killed every single day. 400,000 people. So I'm sorry if this seems to me as not as a big of issue as some of you guys, because I believe we have a much bigger ideas ahead of us. We as people must come together. Thank you.
Could numbers 19 through 22 make their way to speak?
I speak as an ultra-violent member of Antifa. I don't know. June 17, 2015, 4 years ago this day, American white supremacist terrorist Dylan Roof slaughtered 9 African-American worshipers at a Bible study class at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. Roof and other fascist terrorists have cited the same sources as inspiration and motivation for their violent acts. They read the same books, websites, adhere to the same violent ideologies which are developed and spread by groups like Identity Europa. Roof is only one name in a litany of terror carried out by white supremacists inspired by groups like Identity Europa. San Diego, Pittsburgh, Christchurch, New Zealand, Charlottesville. A partial list of sites of domestic terrorism, all perpetrated by extremists who hid in plain sight, protected by the very system they seek to destroy. The FBI reports that 95% of acts of domestic terrorism and hate crimes in the United States are committed by individuals who espouse the beliefs promoted by hate groups like Identity Europa. I implore members of this body and other members of our community who do not understand the nature of this threat to do the research to reach the depth, to seek to reach depth and influence of such groups. Those of us who are trying to drive out market vendors from Bloomington's farm market are not concerned with a vendor's thoughts or with their speech. Everybody is speaking, right? Nothing we are doing is preventing any individual from exercising their right to speak and act. Yes. Speech, however, has consequences. Yeah. We are concerned with their actions as members of a hate group, actively recruiting people into white supremacist organizations and promoting violence against members of minority communities across the spectrum. Yes. The evidence against the proprietors of Schooner Creek Farm stand is strong and conclusive. They have already been removed as vendors from Brown County, and their application to vend in other markets is being actively opposed. The city of Bloomington already regulates the time, manner, and place of speech in the Saturday market, as well as determining who can and cannot vend in the market. We do not want people who promote violence and hatred against any members of our community to earn their living on our dollars so that they can promulgate their vile actions. Actions, not thoughts. Actions. To take appropriate actions to remove them from our publicly run market. If the city chooses to ignore this situation and takes no action, we will continue our campaign to drive this group from the market. That is a childish analysis of this situation. We are meeting actions with action, trying to prevent the spread and growth of dangerous groups who know only violence. If there is one thing history shows, it is that these groups, embedded in open systems, protected by laws that they themselves hold in contempt, will always resort to extreme forms of violence to achieve their goals of racial, religious, sexual identity, and ethnic segregation, and racial purity. Long experience with such people shows that they can change, but that is rare. What keeps them down and what keeps them from spreading is defeating them. Letting them know that we reject their violent extremism and terrorism and we protect our communities from them. We are at a dangerous moment with violent anti-democratic ideologies of the type promoted by these people in ascendance. Fascism is not a fucking opinion. It's not an opinion. Fascism is a series of actions. It is a dangerous set of practices that have led to mass death and horror. What will you do? If you choose to do nothing, and wait until more people are slaughtered, may God, whatever God you profess, have mercy on whatever you consider your soul. No platform for fascists. Thanks. No platform for fascists!
I want to see change, and I think we have to figure out how to do it. I want to keep learning. I want to keep hearing from people because I learned from the people in this room. And I keep hearing tonight that people don't feel safe, and they haven't for a long time. This isn't just starting. And we have to do something. We can't ignore this. I don't know much at this point, but I do feel like we need to have a community forum around this. We need to look at the big system of this. We need to keep learning. We need to keep understanding what's going on and how we can change it, and we don't do that in one night. We don't do that in one night. And so I ask for more. I ask for a group that works on this, and we continue to work on this, and we make change.
And I work at IU, and I'm white and hetero. I guess we're all announcing that. And anyway, and my mom's Turkish, so anyway, gotta throw that out there. So I think it's important for us to be specific in what we're asking from the advisory board, and specifically, I am asking for like two separate things. One thing is having a facilitated community discussion, as other people have requested, because our community needs to talk about this, right? This is how we're going to grow and heal and improve in this issue. There are racists in our community. There are racists here. So that's something we need to deal with, right? If you have racists in your family, you talk about it. So that's what we need to do. We definitely need a community discussion. But to me, that's not enough, because the physical threats of violence and harm and dignity to the minorities and targets of the Nazis' violent threats and actions are in physical danger every second that Nazis and white supremacists are given any kind of official standing in any part of our city. So I researched 3 possible legal routes. This took 20 minutes of Googling. Yeah. I'm not a legal expert, but I've got 3 possible routes around everyone's like, oh, free speech. Okay. So, first of all, some cities have fired racist police officers because they have deemed that they cannot trust those police officers to fairly execute their jobs, knowing that they have attended white supremacist rallies. So just to give you guys that, what I'm trying to say here is I think the city, maybe the board, whoever it is, needs to hire legal experts to urgently and thoroughly investigate every legal in our official city government, from the farmers market to the police force. In this 20 minutes of Googling was that. The second one is, so first of all, they could possibly make the argument that they don't trust the farmers to fairly, treat shoppers at the market, right? And obviously, they're not going to treat them fairly because they're racist. 2, their membership in Identity Europa, other cities have fired racist employees when they say that their membership in a racist organization can tarnish the reputation of that organization and or hurt the business. And so the farmers market is also business. people that we heard spoke here are not going to go to that market while there's a Nazi there selling veggies. Legal option that I found in 20 minutes of Googling is that the city is incurring possible legal liabilities for future racial discrimination lawsuits. And finally, I just wanted to add that I think, I consider myself a white person, okay? So my mom's Turkish, but I grew up in Indiana on a farm, incidentally. I think that we white people need to be leading the support for this effort. Yes. Because white supremacy is a white people problem. Until we admit that, and every time we protect our friends or claim that some Nazis are peaceful or pose no threat to anyone, we're siding with the racists. We need to lead as white people in this community. I'm ashamed to be a white person in a community that won't ban Nazis from the farmers market. Yeah. To hold other white people accountable when they behave, not when they believe, but when they behave in ways that are unacceptable to the values we want our community to represent. Finally, to address the free speech people, the First Amendment specifically excludes direct threats and incitements to violence. The farmers in question have threatened several people who are here and incited a young man to vandalize the synagogue in Carmel, specifically Sarah Dodd. Joining and maintaining membership in a known domestic terrorist group is not a belief, it's not a hypothetical threat, it's not an academic or a political position, it's an action.
Yes.
And we can hold and must hold people responsible for their actions in order to keep all of our citizens safe. And not just the white people.
Yeah.
We're getting close to 7. We've got 9 people who have asked to speak, so everybody's going to be able to speak, but some of the advisory committee members may have to step out after 7 to do other things. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And again, just try to keep it to 2 minutes.
I'm going to start off with a quote from Eli Mosley. He's the recent past president of Identity Europa. There are words I'm about to say that don't cross my lips, and it'll be difficult for most of you to hear, hopefully. And for that, I apologize. This is your trigger warning. If you want to step out, now would be the time. Again, these are the words of Eli Mosley, head of Identity Europa. I work in HR, firing niggers and sticks all day. Before that, I was in the Army and I got to kill Muslims for fun. I'm not sure which one is better, watching niggers and sticks cry because they can't feed their little mud children, or watching Muslims' brains scrape the wall. Honestly, both probably suck compared to listening to a kite scream while in the oven. This is who the vendors were led by. This is who these vendors are championing for and whose praises they sing, and we are supposed to just boycott them? Are we supposed to send them our thoughts and prayers? Granted, I wasn't the best student in history class, but I do remember enough to know that that is how concentration camps became a thing, and it was by normalizing and the allowance of people like these vendors, of peaceful people not wanting to get involved. It's how well over 16 million people were slaughtered and how we have concentration camps full of immigrants right now in our country. And brown people have been repressed and why they feel unsafe. It has to stop, and it can only stop if we make it stop. Boycotting thoughts and prayers aren't enough to stop the horrific things that are happening. but action where? Well, Mayor Hamilton and you people of this advisory board, I implore you to take action.
Hello, my name's Nate. I'm from here. I am not a public speaker. We were all invited to come to this meeting if we wanted to do something about this hate group at our market. So it's a little surprising to hear at the very beginning of the meeting that the advisory board here cannot make or change any policy. That's disappointing. And, maybe I'm naive about the structure of the market, and I apologize about that, but I still appreciate and value this opportunity to share my opinion, so thank you for that. We've also been told that the market, as it is operated by the city government, cannot do anything about this hate group at our market because it would interfere with their, protected First Amendment rights. And I'm not a lawyer. I really hope that there is a lawyer here who can address this specific legal issue. If there is a lawyer here who can address that, and you haven't taken a number, please see Marcia and get a number and address this issue. So I sat up there and I strove to come up with a remark to address directly to the board. And here is what I want to say to you. We need you to stand up against hate at our market. And as was mentioned earlier, maybe you cannot change or make any policy, but I urge you to take whatever action you can. And maybe it won't be effective. In fact, anti-racist action is often not effective. So just to be honest, you have the opportunity here to sit this one out and to just weather this storm. And I really hope that you do not do that. Okay, so please take action and help us to influence the city to remove this hate group from our market. And if they don't, I urge you to resign from this board, okay? You should resign. I'm asking you to join us and pressure the city to remove this hate group from our market. So thank you for that.
My name's Daniel. I've been a long-time resident of Bloomington. I've heard a couple of people come up here, and I've seen a lot of people in the community question whether or not this is true, whether we question the evidence we have, question whether or not they are really Nazis. The evidence we have, aside from the testimony of numerous community members who they've tried to recruit, many of whom will not tell their stories except in private because they've been threatened into silence. You've heard a few of them come up here today, but there are many more of them who are not telling their stories publicly because they've been threatened into silence. Aside from that, we have hard evidence. The Discord channel that got hacked, the contents of which got leaked, they posted pictures of themselves to that channel that are identifiably them. They posted pictures of their farm to that channel that are identifiably their farm. There is a picture on that channel of materials with a shipping label with their name legible on it of their farm. There are neo-Nazis in that picture who later posted pictures of themselves spreading Identity Europa's materials, spreading propaganda for Identity Europa. You just heard from a previous speaker what the leader of Identity Europa said. He also said that the Identity Europa is committed to the Nazification of America. These are organized Nazis who are working to take power in this country. If you believe we can allow them to continue to organize, then you basically have to believe that they're never going to succeed. No one thought they would succeed in 1930s Germany until they did. And then it was too late to do anything about it. And 6 million people died. I'm of Jewish ancestry. If they get power again, I'm gone. To believe we can stay silent on this, to believe that we can afford to allow them to organize, to believe that we can afford to allow them free speech, is to believe that they're never going to get power. Our president, our current president, after Charlottesville, after neo-Nazis marched in the street in open regalia, after they murdered innocent activists, said there are very fine people on both sides. The policies he's putting in place look an awful lot like the policies the early Nazis put in place when they first grabbed power. We can't sit this out. To say that they're not Nazis is to stick your head in the sand. There's enough evidence that they would be convicted in a court beyond reasonable doubt if being a Nazi were a crime. This organized group is an organized hate group, it is an organized Nazi group, and it is a danger, it is a threat to everyone in the community that doesn't. If they were members of ISIS, how would we treat them?
Hi, my name is Teal. I was born and raised here in Bloomington. And I just want to read to you really quick from the Bloomington Community Farmers Market Handbook section on vendor etiquette and tips. City of Bloomington considers diversity a source of strength that adds to Bloomington's character. The Bloomington Community Farmers Market as a program, the city works to create an environment where all can feel welcome and safe regardless of race, religion, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, veteran status, housing status, or familial status. As a party to the 2019 Bloomington Community Farmers Market Farm Vendor Contract, vendors shall collaborate with each other and the city, assisting in creating a welcoming environment for all who attend the market, and shall represent themselves in a professional manner that reflects their commitment to the market's mission and customer satisfaction. I did not hear about Sarah and Doug's Nazism from Facebook. I heard about it over a year ago from two separate friends who have been personally harassed by them and were scared to the point where they sat out from the communities and opportunities where Sarah and Doug were involved. This is real, okay? Schooner Creek Farm is not, and I quote, assisting in creating a welcoming environment for all, nor are they, quote, representing themselves in a responsible manner that reflects their commitment to the market's mission. If they have signed a contract saying they will do this, they are in violation of it. To uphold those contracts and they are directly violating it, I think you do have the power to suspend that contract. And if you don't, you need to change your bylaws because you need to be able to suspend contracts if they become violent or any number of other things happens at your market. This isn't a matter of free speech. No one in this room is asking you to lock them up or persecute them by being a member of the government or to stop you from trying to go change their minds. That's wonderful. Anyone in here who thinks they can change their minds, please, if you have said that you can do that, please do that. But first, we need to protect the people who are vulnerable in our community. If you saw a sparking wire, you wouldn't wait for it to start a fire. You would protect the people who are vulnerable in the area, and then you would address the root of the problem. You don't wait until it becomes more dangerous, okay? No one has a right to a vendor contract at the farmer's market. There are a lot of people who could use that space for their livelihood. And what we're doing by turning the other way is prioritizing literal Nazis who have proclaimed themselves to be Nazis and want to hurt people. And we're choosing to give them priority over other farmers' livelihood and over the safety of members of our community, and that is absolutely never okay.
Hi, my name is Thomas Westgard. I am a vendor at the Brown County Market. I'm the person who first brought the problems to the attention. Well, no, that's not quite true. I'm one of the people who brought the problems to the attention of the Brown County Board. And in that meeting, Sarah and I lied about her association with white supremacist activities. There are a lot of things I don't like about Joe Biden, but there's one quote that I really like. It's from his father. He says, "Don't tell me what your values are. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what your values are." The point is matching your values to what it is that you actually do. And in this case, there are specific actions that you can take that you have not yet taken. So far, we have the words, we have the statement from the mayor of the city and the market that you find these views abhorrent. Okay, I'll take that. Your vendor contract on page 1, the final paragraph states that a vendor must obey all laws. It does not state that they have to be convicted first. It does not state that it's only at the market. It says they have to obey all laws. That's a contract that you have these people on, and you can hold them to that. Third, we've had a number of references here to the importance of community building and safety. So, assuming that these words mean something, I'd like to look at the actions that have been taken. Now, we look at the front page of the Herald Times, we have a quote from Marcia Feldman saying that the market is completely helpless to do anything, that the First Amendment is completely wiped out all ability of the market to do anything, and that's just complete legal bullshit. And the real problem with that is it's a major win for the white supremacists, because that quote has been quoted back to you several times here. It's all over the internet. People are saying, oh gosh, First Amendment, we can't do anything. So, my real question is, what due diligence did you do before that quote went out? So, oh, really? All right, what factual investigation have you made and what legal analysis have you done? In 1 hour at the law library, I found 8 different legal courses of action you can take. I gave a copy. Pay for that legal memo so that it's sitting on your desk. We should have that already. We shouldn't be having this meeting with you thinking, oh gosh, maybe I'll go get a legal memo. That should have been happening before Marcia made her statement to the public. When you choose to leave the white supremacists to the market, you place the cost on Jews, gays, and people of color to have a market where they're not safe. Don't put the cost there. You have the budget. Number one, if you eject the white supremacists now, you put the cost on them to handle being left out of the market. They have to go find a lawyer if that's what they want to do. They have to pay the lawyer. They have to put in the time. Put the cost on them, not on marginalized communities. The cost then goes on the community as a whole. In other words, white people, don't put it all on people of color, Jews and gays. Put it on us. We will, as a community building exercise, work on ejecting the Nazis. Last thing I want to say is I need your help. If anyone has actually been personally approached by Doug or Sarah with an effort to bring you into white supremacy, there is something very concrete that you can do, that you can help me with. It will require courage, but I need your help, so please feel free to approach me afterwards. Thank you for tolerating.
Hi everyone, my name is Zara Anwarzai. I'm from an Afghan and Muslim family. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, born and raised. And I came of age in post-9/11 America, so I'm very used to scooting around racism, scooting around people that you know wouldn't value you, would say, ha, is your dad a terrorist? Ha, would you blow this house up? And you scoot around it, which I think a lot of people here want us to keep doing. But this past February, my cousin Mustafa Ayubi was killed in a hate crime in Indianapolis. His sisters live in Bloomington. He was shot 1 time in the shoulder and 9 times in the back by a white supremacist who yelled anti-Muslim slurs at him right before killing him. And realizing that every day after that happened, I couldn't help but think this would not have happened if he were white. He would not have shot him 9 times, maybe once, maybe twice, but not 10 total, 9 in the back. Yeah, and every day you think this. And so, at the end of the day, the idea that a white life matters more than a brown or a black life, and black families have to deal with this on an almost weekly basis. The fact that a white life matters more to someone, for me, that is the purest form of white supremacy. And we have a lot of people here supporting this, saying you keep scooting around racism, you keep maneuvering as well as you can, but we shouldn't have to. We should have people who are saying, no, your life is valuable, equally valuable. We're here to protect you. And we also need to stop seeing this idea of kicking people out of the farmer's market as a punishment. It's a declaration of who Bloomington is, what we are, what we are. If they want to seek redemption, they need to do that on their own time, but until they're ready to be willing to uphold the values that we as a community hold, then they're not welcome here. Thank you.
My name is Linda. I don't think I have a lot of new things to say, but kind of especially the last few people, my thoughts are very similar. I'd like to know what are you, the market board, and if there's any city representatives in here, what are you going to do to tell the people of color, the Muslims, the Jewish people, queer people in our community, what are you going to do this week? If we take the focus off Sarah and Doug for a little bit and spend a few weeks focusing on who white supremacy hurts, because I haven't seen anything done. And for those who are speaking out against Antifa, I would encourage you to come and speak to the lovely people who are giving out flyers this week. On their other Saturdays, they do things like advocate for universal health care and work with people. Incident, but that does not represent the people that I met on Saturday handing out flyers peacefully. I have found out, any of you can, if you have Google, that 2 police officers in Virginia have been fired by their government employer. One for being a member of Identity of Europa, thanks to Antifa hackers exposing his online activity. The other one, guess what? For being in a Volk Nazi group. I would really like the city of Bloomington's lawyers to reach out to those cities and speak with their lawyers. To that is. I am a nurse and I have to every year go through a training. I have to sign off on it saying that I'll be fired if I engage in hateful online behavior. I know that's a private employer, but I believe that what we put online, we are responsible for. You have the freedom to put it out there. You also have to be responsible for the reaction. And they've made people feel unsafe at a community market. And I don't know how long it might take you to kick them out, if you will, but I would like to see them moved to the periphery of the market as a first step, because they're in the very center. Yes. So I think a good first step would move them to the periphery, and that would actually say something to the people of color. It would say, you're welcome in the center of the market. You are welcome and can feel safe in the center of the market, and we've made it so you can avoid white supremacy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As Abby Ang said, she was the first to go. I know we've had a lot of people. So there are going to be some folks that are stepping up here to convey some accounts from other people. And one of those individuals, his work travel has taken him away, so I am reading for him. My name is Jared Stancombe, and I served as a U.S. Department of Homeland Security analysis under both the Bush and Obama administrations. My work was to provide timely intelligence research on known or suspected foreign terrorists in the United States. In 2008, the Department of Homeland Security Intelligence and Analysis published a threat assessment on right-wing terrorism. While I did not participate in the writing of this report, 11 years later, I can say in hindsight that it accurately forecasted the rise of neo-Nazi movement, the alt-right, and right-wing militarism. According to the Anti-Defamation League, 73% of all terrorist attacks in the United States from 2008 to 2019 were perpetrated by right-wing extremists. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, hate crimes in the United States have risen 30% in the past 4 years, and Indiana has 24 known hate groups. We rank 14th of 50 states in the number of hate groups. Identity Europa is one such group. They were integral in the planning and coordination of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, in which right-wing extremists and armed militia members clashed with local residents, resulting in the death of Heather Heyer. Identity Europa is a member of the American Identitarian Group, which is affiliated with the Austrian Identitarian Group. The leader of the Austrian group was in contact with a person who committed the shooting at Christ Church, New Zealand, resulting in the death of over 50 people. They've also inspired vandalism and attacks in Indiana as well. I'm sure you're all familiar with by now what happened at the synagogue in Carmel, where they defaced the wall with a Nazi swastika. They made homemade napalm and intended to set fire and destroy the synagogue, but changed their plans because of prevalence of physical security measures, such as security guards and lights. Identity Europa is part of a global white supremacist neo-Nazi effort, and now members are selling vegetables at the Bloomington Farmers Market. Matters of intelligence are never certain. Personally, I cannot confirm that the workers at Schooner Creek Farms are members of Identity Europa, but I have seen and heard the evidence and can say with high confidence that they are indeed members of that group. I have heard the Volkmann videos on YouTube where the speaker discussed being red-pilled. If you don't know what that means, you can Google it. How she sympathizes with the alt-right and how race is sacred. I've also reviewed the evidence linking members of Schooner Creek Farms with Identity Europa. My confidence is based upon the assessment of evidence, not my feelings towards the alt-right movement. The neo-Nazi movement thrives in places where people are apathetic and choose to do nothing to counter their views. I do not see Bloomington as a place of apathy, but a town that strongly views the benefits of diversity and inclusion. As I have reviewed, Identity Europa is not just responsible for hate crimes here in Indiana, but they're also part of a greater global movement that has inspired mass murder. Some people will likely say that customers at the market should be able to choose where they should do business with Schooner Creek Farms. Others will likely advocate for a boycott. However, the right wing also thrives on portraying itself as a victim. Others may advocate for the removal of Schooner Creek Farms from Bloomington Farmers Market. I don't recommend a solution, but what I will say is do not have a form of apathy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vox. I didn't intend to be here tonight. I was watching at home from the comfort of my couch, and I was angry in a way that was very visceral and powerful when I heard people stand up here and tell you that if you spoke out against hate, that you yourself will be. And then I heard this powerful young lady speak so eloquently about how she lost someone she loved together, and that angle melted into a kind of a deep sadness that made me ashamed that we even have to be here. When we're talking about Nazism and white supremacy, these should be the most base things that will expel from any society.
Yeah.
That racism isn't the shirt, it's the wardrobe. And Bloomington is a perfect example of that. where's our leadership? Where is the mayor at when there were so many concerned faces in this community? Where is city council? I think we need to realize that the reason we have Nazis are more the symptoms than the cause. It's an issue of our leadership. It's why we've only had 200, in 200 years, we've only had 2 black people on the city council. It's why that we should know that when we're having a conversation like this and there are people who are deeply impacted and marginalized, that rather than just handing out numbers, that we should make sure that we amplify the folks' voice and put them to the front of the line. You know, I'm going to just go ahead and read from the words of Dr. King, his letter from Birmingham jail, because he is more eloquently able to express my sense of concern with our community than I'm capable. Martin Luther King, letter from Birmingham jail, 16th of April, 1963. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been greatly disappointed with the white moderate. I've reached the almost regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white Citizens Council or the Ku Klux Klan, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice. Who proposes a peace which is the absence of tension to a positive peace which is the presence of justice. Who constantly says, I agree with you in your methods, I agree with you in your goal you seek, but I can't agree with you in your methods of direct action. Who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom. Who lives by the myth of time. Who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. The time for justice is always now. Now is not the time to hide behind rights penned by white men who believe they can justify forced enslavement of an entire race. You have to be cognizant when you stand up here and you talk about the First Amendment that it's literally a document that was written by white men who believe that they can enslave people. Hope that you hear me in a receptive manner. To go about business as usual in the presence of white supremacy is to tolerate racism. And to tolerate racism is inherently itself racist. You must take a stand. You must do what is uncomfortable. You must understand that even white dollars are not worth the safety of black and brown bodies, and we must demand that our administration does something.
Yes.
Has everybody who wants to speak had a chance to speak? Okay, so I'm just going to be honest, I'm at a loss to say what the next step needs to be, but it seems pretty certain to me that there need to be other steps taken. The two things that I heard most often tonight were that people do not feel safe and that we need some type of community forum to talk about this issue.
I thought that's what this was.
And legal exploration of banning the Nazis from our, we need legal exploration of all of the many possible legal routes that we've mentioned to you that could be pursued to ban white supremacists from our cities and institutions. So pursuing legal action as well, and ensuring that vendors are not allowed to sell to market is what I heard. So, what was that last thing? Vendors not allowed to talk? To pursue legal action, looking at ways to put the vendors out of the market. That's what I heard people asking for.
And can I ask something? Is there a contact that we can, if we have any information that we felt couldn't be expressed publicly, that we can send to you to make sure that these members of the store here get that information?
Yes. Is the list of the advisory committee members public? Farmers Market at bloomington.in.gov.
That's a farmers market.
Is what?
That's a secure for people to report to.
I'm not.
Well, does every board member have access, things like that?
They will forward it on, and I will give you my email address if you want to contact me directly as well. People in there. Okay. brmccall@indiana.edu and my name again is Bruce McAllister. That's my direct contact information. If I will say if people want to talk about this further, and we also have our advisory committee meets on the third Monday every month. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but so it's going to be the third Monday in July. And the one, I'm just going to talk for myself, but I've been on the advisory committee for a really long time, and nobody ever comes to our meetings. And what we can do as an advisory committee is pretty limited, but what we can do as a community is only limited by our imagination. And one of the things I would say is that there's a lot of legal opinions out there, but what I know for sure is that the power to impact this issue is with the community. You all can decide where you spend your dollars. And so that is where power lies. It may be that the city can do something, but that's not what we've been told. So I think
We're going to boycott the whole market, not that stall.
It's not that. Maybe we just don't know.
Next meeting is the 15th of July.
Be run by Nazis. We don't know that.
That's true.
We don't know if they are.
I think it's true.
Everybody I think is spoken that wants to come up and speak, and so the formal meeting is done, but if people want to stay and talk, we can stay and talk about it. Okay.
Wait a minute.